Welcome to This Week in Real Estate with Jonathan Harmon. Listen in as him and other members of the J. Harmon Home Team speak about all things real estate with local experts here in the Middle Tennessee area. Be sure to check out jharmonhometeam.com for more information and how to get in touch with our amazing team. Welcome to the show.
And good morning. Welcome to This Week in Real Estate. I'm Jonathan Harmon with the J. Harmon Home Team, powered by Keller Williams. I've got Miss Candy Joyce, who is the Executive Vice President at MTAR, also known as Middle Tennessee Association of Realtors. Thank you for not changing the name of the organization. I'm not going to specifically mention any other organizations that I happen to know about in our industry that decided to drop the word association, and it just is weird to me.
It's weird to me too, because that's what they are.
I mean, that's like to me, that's the most important part of it. But anyway, not here to pass judgment, just here to talk about what we're doing, right? And before we do that, we do want to hear from Brian Nail real quick, so I don't forget to do that, because Miss Candy is awesome, and I'm sure we're going to spend forever talking, and I'll forget. So Brian over there at Premise Mortgage is the sponsor of this show and is a big supporter of all things Spread the Positive. He also happens to be a fantastic mortgage lender, so we love Brian. So let's hear from him.
Hey, my name is Brian Nail. I'm a mortgage loan officer with Premise Bank Mortgage. I want to tell you that I absolutely love being a member of the Spread the Positive Network. It's such a great mission and helps bring so much positivity to our community. It's truly a pleasure to be part of. There are a lot of ways to navigate financing a home, and in markets like this, having the advice of a trusted local professional is key to making sure you get the right advice for your specific circumstances. Whether you're interested in the purchase of a new home, second home, or have a need for a refinance, I'd love to earn your trust. If I can help you nail your mortgage, call me at 615-243-3976 or visit nailyourmortgage.com.
Premise Mortgage is a subsidiary of Premise Bank, a member FDIC, equal housing opportunity. As always, all loans are subject to approval. Premise Mortgage, NMLS number 1894879.
That's a terrific slogan.
I mean, if your last name is going to be Nail and you don't use that, what are you even doing? You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Just brilliant. Anyway, love that guy. So Candy, you're the Executive Vice President at MTAR, Middle Tennessee Association. What does that mean? What does the organization do? Anybody that's watching this that isn't a realtor or a real estate professional, tell us about the organization and what you do there.
The organization is a voluntary membership group that the brokers make a choice for them to partner with us and provide services to them directly and as well to all their agents. So we're a volunteer membership group. When people join, they expect some type of member benefit. So they're getting education, they're getting legal advocacy, they're getting political advocacy, they're getting all opportunities to grow their business, to stay on top of what's happening in the marketplace. Just all kinds of services that they can expect from a membership group.
So on the surface, it's a professional organization, right? So
Absolutely.
If you are a real estate professional in Rutherford County and some surrounding counties, and especially if your broker is a member, then that's kind of the target of who would join. But unlike some, and almost every profession has some type of professional organization, right? This one, it's a little bit different because you join it at the local level, state level, and national level. And you get, if nothing else, you get a title out of it, right?
Yes, you are a realtor. And that is a copyrighted registered trademark for the National Association of Realtors, which is over 100 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, you've got that much power and that much experience is going to stand behind you in the industry. Over time, there's been so many issues in terms of how we do real estate, how we represent clients, what services they're expecting. So it's a very important part of what we do is to make sure that all those things are in place. Each level of service, national, state, and local, is going to have relatively similar mirrored services at their level, but then there's going to be a lot more personal contact at the local level. So, while we're also doing education and they're doing education, we're doing community service. We're getting involved in the changes that happen in our community. So we're a big voice.
Yeah, for sure. And from a consumer standpoint, eh, the word realtor has all almost become like, "That's my realtor," and you hear that. But, I don't know if everybody realizes that that is like you said, it's a trademarked word, and not every real estate professional is a realtor. And so for the general public, what that means is that they are held to an even higher standard with their code of ethics that goes on top of the state law and state statutes and all of that stuff.
Absolutely. The Code of Ethics is over 100 years old as well, but it's a living, breathing document. So
Mhm.
as the market changes, as the needs of the consumer, as the laws change, it updates on a regular
As our
basis.
culture changes. I mean, there's some cultural
Absolutely.
changes.
There are lots of things that we have to make sure we are staying abreast of what's happening in the community, making sure we are representing well, and then advocacy. We're advocating for all kinds of things happening in the community,
Mhm.
not just in a community service aspect, but things like growth. Everybody has a lot to say about that recently, and hopefully we'll talk a little more about that later. But there's a lot that we're talking about too. We know that there need to be updated flood maps so that people that are no longer in the flood map because there's been other changes in their community don't have to pay for flood insurance.
That's right.
Where there's just so many things that we're
And
touching.
and potentially somebody that probably could stand to use the subsidized flood insurance should be able to get that.
Absolutely. That's one of our national issues that is so
Mhm.
ongoing. We've been doing that one for probably 20 years because the National Flood Insurance Program is funded by Congress. And every time it comes up for renewal, if we're not there telling them, remember, this is important,
Yeah,
not just in Tennessee, but all over the country. If we're not having some type of support to keep that program in place, then we're not giving the best consumer services. And they won't remember unless we're there to tell them.
that's right.
So we are.
Squeaky wheel, right?
Absolutely.
Yep, and if we need to remind them, we can show them pictures from 2010 and say, "Hey, you remember this? See this building floating down the interstate?" Yeah,
That's the one.
yeah, exactly. A very powerful picture. So how long have you been with MTAR?
Almost 30 years.
Wow. Wow. And what have you seen? I mean, obviously you've seen a ton of changes in that span of time, but give me like your top 3 biggest changes from your perspective in for the industry.
Technology.
Mhm.
That's been a huge change in the way we do business and the ability to share the information
So we're
from
talking 1993,
94.
94 you came in.
Mhm.
Okay.
And we had books that were printed once a week, and everybody got a copy of the book, and it was all the information that we could get on any of the properties that were available. So that was our connectivity at that point.
Mhm.
Um, we had DOS-based services that were really old and clunky, and then we've, come a long, long way in a short amount of time with all of the new technology, the apps, the different reporting systems, all kinds of things that make it consumer friendly as well,
Mhm.
but actually speed us along to be able to share the information with everybody, what's out there, what we can do to help them get it, helping the lenders know what's available so that they'll be prepared for what's in the marketplace to make loans, all kinds of things that we can do. So technology has been absolutely probably the biggest change.
Mhm.
Regulatory issues, those have been second biggest because a lot of the things that government does with the best of intentions sometimes has a huge impact on how we either do business or what business we can get done.
Sure.
For the consumer, when we start talking about property taxes, absolutely. I'm a property owner. You're a property owner. It's not that we don't want to pay our fair share. It's that we want to make sure everything is being paid for fairly. And so we want to advocate for schools, want to advocate for roads. We're that voice. And there's a lot of regulatory issues that just pop up. Sounded like a good idea at the time, but not necessarily affordable,
Mhm.
rational, or reasonable.
Sustainable.
Those 2. So there's a lot of things that have changed in the regulatory world for us to be able to do that. You remember when disclosures came into place and when they changed the closing documents,
Yeah.
all that notification time?
Trid.
That was so exciting
Yeah.
and a short turnaround to get it out to everybody so that we were doing it correctly. And that's important. We want to do it correctly. But somebody comes up with the bright idea, it gets passed, and suddenly we got to go, oops, now we don't do that anymore, or we do it differently now.
And there was an adjustment period. So, during that adjustment period, the key was communication. So virtually no one knew everything that was going on, but we communicated the best we could with what, okay, this change means this. Here's an unintended consequence. Here's how we work, but communication all along the way to the consumer.
Yeah.
I I think that that's one of the biggest things. NAR does the National Association does the survey once a year, and every single year for as far as I know, since they've done this survey, the number one complaint from the general public about our industry is communication. Al
Absolutely.
Always. And yet it's always the same problem. So, you would think we would learn that by now, but it's that proactive, we have our finger on the pulse of what's going on, and we're communicating it back to you so that you know what's going on. Because at the end of the day, no one likes surprises.
Real estate is a service industry. We don't create anything. We
No.
service the needs of the seller, the needs of the buyer.
And they could do it themselves.
They can. They're at a disadvantage because of
Sure.
all of these other pieces that now play into the transaction.
But
where
it's possible.
It is very possible.
Which means that our job as a facilitator, as an advocate, as an expert, as a anticipator, right, is even more important because all we really do is make their lives easier at doing something that theoretically they could do for themselves.
Absolutely. There's a lot of people that have either bought and sold properties for a long time or they have a career that, like an accountant who understands numbers and can easily see what is the better deal for them. There's attorneys who know how to read contracts and what parts and pieces they need to pay attention to. But collectively, John Q. Public is out there doing what they do every day, raising their families,
That's right.
getting involved in other community activities. And this is something that's not something they do every day, but it is still the single biggest investment they're ever going to make. They may have dollars to invest in bank stocks and bonds and all those kinds of things for their retirement, but your biggest single asset is going to be your home.
Mhm.
And with that, you have to make really important decisions and long term decisions. So, having that advocate and having that voice of reason or someone with experience to say this does work, we've seen these things change. We want to make sure you're aware. It's not a decision that we're making for them. We're just giving them the information they need to make the best decision possible.
And sometimes the most important thing that we say is, "This is not the right move."
Absolutely. Nobody likes to say no. Nobody likes to be told no. So we need to communicate a little better to be able to say there are other things to consider here. And I think we have really tried to step that part of it up when we're working client to client, going, okay, you told me what you wanted. Here's what I can do for you. Here's how I get paid. Here are the things that we need to look at first before you say, let's buy this house or
Mhm.
let's buy this business. Cause it's the same when you start talking about
Sure.
retail and commercial.
Yeah, you're right. So let's shift gears a little bit and let's talk about the current market because where we are now is not where we were 2 years ago. And
Nowhere.
if you've kept up or you participated in the market over the course of the last, let's say, 5 years, you've seen an evolution coming out of strongly coming out of a pretty sizable recession and a super strong market in its own way. But all along the way, people were going, I don't know about this. It's a little out of control. It's a little dangerous. It's a little too much. And now we're in something a little bit different that is kind of the result of that. So let's talk numbers for a sec. I know you get the benefit of pulling market wide type numbers and getting those reported back to you. So where are we now compared to say this time last year? And then maybe if you've got it compared to the year before that, because I think you'll see three different distinct numbers.
The interesting thing on where we are in the marketplace is just the level, but the cycle is the same.
Hmm.
Let's talk about July. July is a slow month, period. It's hot. You're on
Hmm.
vacation. You either moved after school's out to be able to set up and be ready to go back to school later, or you make your decisions, you get set up and ready to go for your August. So July's an interesting slow market anyway, even
Mhm.
though new construction continues because it's their best time, except for all the rain we've had of late.
Right.
But we've got a lot that's been going on in the last several years. The biggest change, and I think the thing that psychologically has slowed a lot of activity down, is interest rates. But I gotta say, I had my license even before I had this job, so that goes way far back. And we sold houses at 18 and 20%.
And I hear that a lot, right? And my parents' first house, they got it, whatever, 12, 13% or whatever it was. But there's a difference. And to me, the biggest difference is that when those rates were at those high levels in the teens, or double digits, whichever, right? You didn't come off of a 3-year time frame where prices went up almost 100% and rates were sub 4 for an extended period of time. And so the difference being, and you had relatively consistent wage growth. So right now we're at this weird confluence of 4 years where collectively we appreciated almost 100% as a market. Our rates tripled in that same quickly at the
Mhm.
end of that time frame, and yet wages were,
Flat.
basically, yeah. And if anything, in some ways, because of the hyperinflation, you lost buying power.
A
So it's
little.
it's all three things at one time. It's not really the same as the early mid '80s, and even into the early '90s where you had 7, it was a low rate.
Sure. I think you're gonna see that rates will level off, and the norm of 6 to 7% is not gonna hurt so bad
Right.
mentally, and you start looking at.
Because you just gotta get used to it. It is what it
Yes,
is.
and part of it's also gonna be the ability for builders to catch up.
Yeah.
We have so many people that now work from home that if you had a home, you're gonna stay there. If you had, a rental, like an apartment, now it's getting a little tight in there to be there,
Mhm.
24/7, 365. That's a little more, so now they're starting to look for things, but then at the same time, you've got the other end of that spectrum where ordinarily you'd have quite a few of seniors, baby boomers that would be ready to downsize. They're not downsizing.
Well, they can't. And I think that's the other oddball situation, and I hear this over and over and over and over again when I talk to people, is I would love to move. I mean, I would love to be in, this part of town versus this part of town, or, downsize or upsize or whatever, right? The normal things that people, have mobility about. But if I'm sitting here at a 3.25% interest rate and the house that I would sell is bigger than the house I could buy that's $100,000 more, and my rate is almost 3 times, I literally can't afford to move.
And with that, that's where you start taking in multi-generational housing. So the seniors that ordinarily would be making those kinds of moves, whether downsizing or following the grandkids across the country, they would be the ones that we'd have that existing home sales that would help keep the market afloat as
Right.
new construction tries to catch up. Not having that
No.
opportunity. Instead, they're bringing those families into that house because there's room, it's paid for or almost, it's affordable to keep, and there's the opportunity to build on where they had those kinds of lots.
Yeah,
They don't have those kinds of lots today. So
that's
there's
true.
a lot of things that have changed along the way, but some of the stuff is still the same where you've got new families that want to be here and they're willing to pay for it. They want to make sure we've got something special in this community that they want to have a part of. So that's why we're still growing.
And that's why prices haven't really slipped too much. I mean, they've retracted a little bit, but the retraction is really just taking back some of the gain that we saw last year.
Well, and the cost of all the materials, I mean, that's the cost of so many things has gone up with it.
Mhm.
So, new construction, while they're trying to keep up with new regulatory costs, increased fees, and things that they're having to put in on the front end, that's going to raise the cost. We're working on an expansion at our association with an event center, and that event center has met delay after delay after delay. Well, that's carrying costs. So those builders are having substantial expenses that
Right.
have nothing to do with the house. It's just delays, and they have to pay for that. And so that goes back into the price of the housing. So we're looking at all different kinds of things that we didn't really have before COVID, where you had shortages, so many shortages. Lumber went sky high, then it came down, and metal went sky high, steel went sky high. Now we've got lights that have parts and pieces that are coming from across the ocean, and they don't have all those lights. So
Right.
you start building pieces
We
and
had
parts.
resin that they couldn't get out of Mexico, and it affected all the insulation, and I mean,
That's
it's
right.
just wacky stuff.
So those costs have to be carried somewhere, and
Yeah.
they're going to be carried to that closing date.
So where are we then? So compare us to last year.
Well, last year we were doing pretty good. The interesting thing is we haven't really lost in terms of sales pricing.
Right.
We haven't really lost in size of housing in terms of what's our average sales price and our average square footage of house. They're still building that size house because that's what people need. That's what they feel comfortable
Well, and
in.
they have to justify the lot cost.
That's right.
You can't build a 1,300 square foot house on a $100,000 lot. It doesn't make sense.
We now have an average sales price for July was $454,000. That's a lot of money, and that's an average. So we're having more or less of those kinds of properties. We sold in Rutherford County, closed 540 houses. That's pretty consistent with what we usually do. We had about 680 last year about this time.
I think we were
So-
just over 700 the year before. So
Yeah.
we've slipped.
And interest rates will be part of that.
Mhm.
New construction delays will be part of that, because particularly when you get to this price point, you're talking about it's going to be a lot of those new construction pieces.
Right. And I read, and you may have this somewhere, but what percentage of our on market houses right now are new construction? It went up for the first time ever above 25% or whatever.
Mhm.
And we're staying about 35 to 40% of our available homes is new construction.
It is. But then we're desperate to have it. We've got so many new construction apartments, which is a temporary lifestyle. And there's nothing wrong with apartments. They're beautiful. They have amenities I wish
Mhm.
I had
Right.
or had access to. But at the same time, once they're in there, they're looking for something bigger. They're looking for something better. They're looking for something of their own. They're looking to invest,
Sure.
something that's going to pay them back. And when you start looking at that, we put out, was it 2 years ago, the city of Murfreesboro had a 6-month moratorium on new construction permits, just
Mhm.
permits for apartments, not
Right.
on houses, but on apartments, because they had 11,000 permits already pulled that were not
Units.
even
Yeah.
we're not even out of the ground. 11,000.
Yeah.
That's a lot of places to live, and they weren't able to keep up with schools and fire
That's
protection
it.
and sewer,
Water and
and
Mhm.
electricity, all those pieces that come into a housing unit that have to be provided. So we're looking at all those kinds of pieces now going, okay, if you slow it down and you're dependent on that revenue as a city or a county, how are you going to make up the difference? That's what property taxes do.
Well, and so one of the things that I found interesting on the new construction as a percentage of available homes being so high, the actual quantity, the physical quantity of the new construction homes was actually slightly lower, but that as a percentage of the total market, it was way higher. And it's because, like we were just talking about, resale homes, the quantity of those fell through the floor
Absolutely. People stayed put.
unless they have a life event, basically.
That's usually the way it is, and they're even working around some of those through deed transfers to family members and putting them on the deed so that they can stay in the family. It doesn't go
Right.
anywhere.
Right.
We've seen a lot of new changes in how the existing home market is. They are investing in that home. They're adding on a screen porch or an extra bedroom or something so that it now fits the needs they have. They're putting on that downstairs bedroom so that they don't have everything upstairs, so that they can age in place.
Right.
They're making those adjustments because they went ahead and refinanced way back when, got it down to 3-4%. And it's like, okay, I can do that.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to stay there and pay it off.
Well, and at that stage in life, you're looking at doubling or more your house payment. That just doesn't
right.
make sense. And your
Absolutely.
wages have gone up, 2 or 3% in the last couple of years. you can't sell it.
Nope.
And so it's been really interesting to have those conversations with people, the one-on-ones, and just, so we want to move, but we can't. Well, why can't you? And then we start talking about the can't part of it. And in a lot of cases, they genuinely can't, even if they wanted to.
They probably sold. If they sold, they make the most money they're ever going to make off of that property. But can they recapture something equally as comfortable
They
in the
can't.
location that they want? And that's not as likely as it
No.
used to be.
So if you're willing to move to a different county in some
Mhm.
cases, like we do have a little bit of shift. If you're selling in Rutherford, possibly moving to Coffee or somewhere like that, that shift is happening a little bit. And the lifestyle down there is great. Manchester, Tullahoma, they got it going on down there. It's a good area. Columbia, not quite as drastic of a difference, but that's still happening a little bit. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting. So let's talk about, let's shift that gear even some more. Let's talk about the membership, because having taught the some of the orientation classes and such, I guess I taught for, how long did I teach there? 5 years?
Yeah, 4 or 5 years.
5, yeah, I think so. Um, I don't remember ever, and the class that I taught was offered every 2 months, so 6 times a year. Even on when we did it via Zoom, I might have taught 6 or 7 years. Anyway, it was a while. I don't remember ever not having a full class.
Absolutely.
So tons and tons, and a full class was like 80 people?
65, 75, yeah.
Yeah. How do we have that many real estate agents just in our, because our membership encompasses what, 5 counties?
9.
9. I'm so far behind. This is why I have you here, because I make stuff up. All right. So encompasses 9 counties. How do we have 70 people? Let's do the math. 70 times 6, right? 420 people a year consistently for 5, 6 years joining as real estate agents. I mean, at some point, and especially now when volume is down, I remember hearing that there were more licensees than there were available listings.
Yep.
So, so help me understand that.
There's a couple of
And my
contributing
business has
factors.
fallen off a little, right,
Sure.
as far as volume goes, but I'm still doing more than one deal a year, obviously, right? So
Absolutely.
it's not like it's a fair share. Like if there's 500 deals to be done and there's 500 agents, it's not one apiece.
No.
You know what I mean?
But you look at it, when COVID came along and everybody went home,
Mm-hmm.
and then they started thinking, is this what I really want to do with my life?
Mm-hmm.
They have decisions
But it
to
started
make.
before that.
It
So I'm
did.
gonna challenge that, because I had full classes before COVID.
You did, but that was part of our market because we were
Mhm.
adding more people in the other markets. They're picking up new opportunities.
I see.
But at the same time, when COVID comes along, you've got those people that are going, this is what I really want to do. What things could I be doing with my time? What could I be doing to build wealth for my family? Real estate's a unique position because you are an independent contractor, meaning by law you work for yourself. However, by state license, you work for the broker,
Right.
but you're not an employee. So
Right.
now that gives you some flexibility. So then you go, hey, maybe I ought to start this as a secondary opportunity and grow into it as I downsize from what I've been doing for 20 years. And I may decide I don't want to continue what I'm doing.
Or I
Maybe I'm
take the
just bored with
buyout,
it.
or I
That's right.
yeah.
And then that gives them an opportunity to do it. So we started getting, when we thought we would not get many at all, we got quite a few people, and that just seems to continue. Whether they're doing it part-time today with their full-time position on the downturn, or we've got a ton of brand new agents that are in their 20s and 30s as a new career opportunity because they like the independence, they like the freedom and the focus of this business. It's not all the glitz and glamour that the TV shows as they
Oh,
drive
it's
around
like
and
virtually none of that, to be honest.
it is, but it does offer some things, particularly for secondary careers. Because if you've been the mom at home and you are, they're in school now and you've got this opportunity. So you start thinking, how do I do more and do better? Okay, this is an opportunity. Either I go back to school to learn more to do what I wanted to do before, or I take on a new opportunity. Well, I can schedule some appointments during these hours. I can work nights and weekends when the other half of the family is home to take care of one another. I can work on holidays and things so that I can just help when I have the available time, and that availability
But it doesn't
opportunity.
work like that, Candy.
It does sometimes. It
Yeah,
does sometimes,
I
and
just
that's
don't
where
see
they
it.
start.
And so I guess that's my question. How are they eating? How are agents eating right now if the volume is down, and it is, um, and the there are people coming in, and this is real talk, right?
Mhm.
So, and I have no problem, just for the record, I have no problem working with a new agent. I'm not one of those agents like, all these new agents, blah, blah, blah. I'm not that guy, right? But if you're adding 80, 60, 80, 70, whatever agents every 2 months, how are they eating?
They're making the sales like any other new salesperson in any other sales career. They're starting with themselves, their family, their friends, their sphere of influence, letting people know what they're doing and building a few network opportunities. And then after that initial network is done, then they set out for a career or they don't.
Mhm.
And that's the kind of the beauty of what real estate offers. You can go into it and hit the ground running, but then you've got to work at it and learn more and be available. You've got to talk to people. You've got to talk to other agents. You've got to listen and learn. You've got to have tools. It's not just a simple business. It has flexibility. And that's one gift that some of the other careers don't have.
Sure.
And so that's the draw. And particularly for some of our Gen X and Gen Y people, they're really looking at some of those opportunities as the freedom and flexibility. The Z are coming in with full throttle enthusiasm. They're going to make it come hell or high water. That's what they came here to do. They're not coming in with a secondary backup plan. This is
Mhm.
what I'm going to do. So whatever it takes, I'm going to make it. And they go full bore.
So, eh, with this number of people coming in, that volume, that um, influx doesn't seem to be relenting,
No,
right? Surely not everybody's sticking around. So,
no.
what's the flip side stat for that? If we're adding 70 or 80 times 6 a year, right? What's the stat of people getting out of the industry? Is it just a replacement? Is it a constant, I guess, backdoor type situation? I mean, are we losing the same number of people in the industry as we are gaining them on the front side? So
No.
we're net gaining.
We're net gaining every month. One of the things that we do, obviously, is track those because we got to
Sure.
keep up with the new members.
Right.
So on a regular monthly report, we may have another 30 to 50 that applied through that first month. And
Mhm.
then we may have 16 or so that may get out, whether they decided to move away, they finally decided to retire, or they've stepped out of the association and they're going to do something different. They may
Mhm.
just be a staff person or otherwise.
Mhm.
They're not going to be actively selling. They've stepped out. So we're getting 2 to 1, at least 2 to 1.
Okay. And so, what do you think, kind of predicting the future here, what do you think the future of our membership and the future of our market looks like? Do you still have do you see teams really, you know, getting bigger? Do you see, um, uh, more and more of the dual career type situations? What do you predict something for me here? What is this going to look like? Because you can't have, in my opinion, unless the market base grows substantially, or your agents that have made a career out of it already lose significant business, which they're not going to be willing to do. They're going
That's
to
true.
fight tooth and nail for that. Not everybody can eat. So, what happens there?
Well, it's not just residential. You
Sure.
got there are some that are specifically working on commercial, which is growing fast and furious. Now they've got their own level of issues,
Yeah.
but they've come into this marketplace and they're expanding broadly. And because they're licensed to sell anywhere in the state of Tennessee, even if there's not new construction here, there could be something elsewhere. They could be working with a builder who may be actually doing some of the construction. So they have a regular feed of properties to offer so that they have some income opportunities. Then they go out and they search for those others. The stability of Tennessee's economy has made such a huge difference in people wanting to be here.
Sure.
They bring businesses, they bring jobs, they bring people.
Families. Yeah.
And when they do that, we've got to be prepared for it. So it may not be that we're just talking about Rutherford County. We're talking about Middle Tennessee all the way up through the Cumberland Plateau, and we're talking about Cookeville area. They may drive to show property over there. They have the same access to information. They have the same opportunity to cooperatively represent their client and find the best property available for them. So they're stretching their wings a little bit.
But do they have the ability to represent a client as well as they? So I'm a believer in specializing, right? Like I would refer business to Cookeville or Clarksville or, somewhere like that. I don't have, in my opinion, the ability to be the expert in an area that I quite literally never, ever go to.
Understood.
And so I would refer that business. So do you encourage people to take whatever business they can get?
Not always, but they, particularly the new agent who doesn't have the constraint of time on their, that's not going to hold them back. They can go learn about that community. They can go find out about those properties. And because of that opportunity, they're willing to do that. Now, a little further down the line, maybe not so much, and they will refer it. And they've also networked and learned other people. And it's like, hey, I would like to send these clients to you because you have a better knowledge of that location.
Right. And I enjoyed working with you. I know your work ethic already.
Yes, and
That's fair.
That's kind of where they're going with it. They start out, I can do it all. And then as they build things, they can't do it all. And so they find that network of supports going, hey.
Well, they realize what all means.
Yeah, it does.
This is a business of you don't know what you don't know.
Absolutely.
For sure. Okay. Well, good stuff. So, all right. So give me the scoop on our Mr. President, Scott Abernathy.
He's awesome. He was just recently, 2 years back now, he's the past president of the National Association of Residential Property Managers. So he's a property manager. He also does real estate sales himself, but his business model is a little different from your regular agent.
For
He's
sure.
not selling, but he was involved all the way to the national presidency. So he brings back that experience to our association as well as his fun personality.
He is a truly unique individual. That's for sure.
And newlywed.
That's right. That's right. I saw that. We've had one of his guys, Bernard, on here before. So
Bernard's awesome.
Bernard's great. All right. Well, I guess I'm going to end it with this. And the question that is always the best question to ask a real estate professional. And I'm really curious what your answer to this question is. Super simple. Okay. Candy Joyce, how's the market?
It's great. You let me help you find what you're looking for, and we will do what you need done.
Well, there you go. See, that was easy enough. All right. Candy Joyce, the executive vice president at MTAR. Don't let the name fool you. She's the one that does literally everything over there. So she pushes all the buttons, and Scott listens to her, even though he's the president. At least he better listen to her. Let's put it that way. So, Miss Candy, thank you so much for being here with us and talking a little real estate. And yeah, I guess that's it. You got anything else? Anything cool coming at MTAR?
Well, our new event center.
Yeah.
When it is done,
it's beautiful.
It's gorgeous, and it's getting better every day. Now we're doing all the inside finishes and touches. We're going to have rental opportunities for the community.
How big is it?
Well, the building itself is 8,800 square feet, but 5,400 of it is one room.
Yeah.
So there'll be lots of opportunities for meeting spaces, for weddings, for parties, for award ceremonies, whatever. So we're going to have a lot of opportunities. Of course, we're already voting precinct for Rutherford County.
Right.
So they will be back there next year because it's an election year. So we've got that coming up 3 times next year. So lots of exciting things back there. Never done a commercial building before, so that ought to be fun.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a whole new world. Anyway, I won't sing anymore. All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Appreciate all that you do for our community and for my specific community, for the real estate community here in Rutherford County, our 9 counties, and really the state everywhere. I mean, you're actively involved in all kinds of stuff.
Yes, sir.
So thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trent. Appreciate you. Thanks for watching. If you have any real estate questions, give me a shout. If you have mortgage needs, give Brian a shout. And if you are interested, I know it sounded like I was trying to tell you not to, but if you are interested in getting into real estate, definitely talk to Miss Candy, talk to myself, and we can give you the scoop. I'll shoot you straight. I won't be all sunshine and bunnies, but you don't need to hear all sunshine and bunnies, right?
Absolutely.
So, but if you are interested in sunshine and bunnies, my buddy Trent back there, Spread the Positive, gets to tell all the sunshine and bunny stories and gets to do all the fun stuff and walks out of here with a smile on his face every single day. Look at that guy. See, he's blushing right now, and y'all can't even see it. It's awesome. So if you're interested in helping spread the positive through contribution, through storytelling, through sponsorship, any of that, we would love to have you. Is that it?
Yep.
All right. Have a good rest of the week.